Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are jumping straight into a really surprising knowledge gap.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's this disconnect between these deeply held spiritual principles and the functional systemic tools you need to make them actually last in the real world.
Right.
So we're looking at source material that details a solution for this. It's called Next Level Preparedness.
And this is really a deep dive into structure, into responsibility, specifically within ministry leadership.
Okay.
The main source we have is a 7-part virtual learning series. It's presented by a group called the Unique Umbrella Effect, and what's really noteworthy is that it's funded by the federally funded Disaster Worker Grant.
The DWG.
The DWG, yeah.
And the DWG isn't funding cleanup, right? The sources make a big point of this. It's about funding prevention.
Exactly. The mandate is education before crisis. This is all about being proactive, building stability before some slow pressure or, a sudden disaster forces everyone to react.
So it frames the whole learning theories as, essential preventative maintenance.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Okay, so the mission here, it's not theological. It's not about teaching new faith concepts.
Not at all.
It's about taking principles that are already taught. Things like stewardship, multiplication, order, and then translating them.
Translating them into systems that actually work, systems that are legally compliant, financially sound, and operationally resilient.
Okay, so let's unpack this core knowledge gap that they're trying to fix.
Well, the source material is brutally honest about what it calls the uncomfortable truth.
Which is?
That principles like stewardship exist, sure, but the translation of those principles into actual working systems, it just doesn't happen equally everywhere.
Not across all traditions or congregations.
No. And what's fascinating here is the economic analysis of that disparity.
Okay.
In certain faith traditions, often the wealthier ones, principles of order and legacy get translated immediately.
Yeah.
Right into tangible structures.
What kind of structures are we talking about?
We're talking formal financial systems, legal protection, institutional buffering, even ongoing operational mentorship. They essentially learn the business of ministry right from the start.
But the sources point out this critical finding.
Yeah.
In other communities, particularly the more vulnerable ones, these principles are preached faithfully. The why is always there.
The why is there, but the how is missing.
The principles are just never translated into the practical tools that protect the very people carrying all the responsibility.
And if you look at this from just a pure business framework, the consequences of that missing translation are, they're predictable. And they're damaging.
How so?
If your structure doesn't increase when your responsibility increases, all of that pressure just falls onto one person, onto the leader.
Which means responsibility goes up, pressure goes up, and this is crucial. Isolation goes up.
Yes.
Leaders are just forced to absorb all that operational stress in silence. They're probably afraid they'll look incompetent if they ask for help with, financial systems or compliance rules.
And that operational stress, the sources argue, it often shows up as a deep emotional cost. It shows up as shame.
Shame. Shame about not knowing, shame about asking, shame about the finances being strained.
Exactly.
But this raises a really profound question, doesn't it? Is that shame even justified?
Well, the source material pushes back hard on that. It argues this is not a spiritual deficit. It says many leaders are only 1 or 2 missing pieces away from stability.
Wow, 1 or 2.
Which reframes the entire problem. This isn't about a lack of faith or intelligence. It's a systemic lack of access to knowledge.
So they're basically praying for a structural integrity that, according to this framework, was always meant to be learned and built.
Right. Not just, bestowed from on high. It's a systemic knowledge transfer problem at its core.
That really changes the entire purpose of this initiative then. It moves the conversation away from any kind of personal failure.
And toward the absolute necessity of systemic education.
Okay, so let's look at the architects. Who stepped into this void?
The leader behind this whole campaign is Charlotta Germain. And her insight was seeing this consistent, silent pattern.
A pattern where what?
Where lots of commercial and institutional sectors get specialized training. How to protect, multiply, and steward resources. It's just standard practice.
But other sectors, like these critical ministry leaders, are just left to figure it all out on their own.
Exactly. So she used her organization, the Unique Umbrella Effect, to correct that structural imbalance.
The sources label this solution as trauma-informed and social-emotional learning-based. Now that's unusual for a program that's focused on business and finance.
It is unusual.
So why? Why does the framework insist on integrating that personal emotional weight with, practical business tools.
Because you can't separate them. You can't separate the operational burden from the personal weight that a leader carries.
Right.
If a leader is feeling shame or isolation, they're just not going to implement the complex solutions they need. It's a barrier.
So by being trauma-informed, the series respects those lived experiences, those pressures.
Yes, and that reduces the barrier to entry for seeking help. It's business practical and it's spiritually respectful. It meets them where they are.
So who's delivering this content, this very integrated content?
The primary facilitator is Julia Pauls. She's widely known as Coach J.
Her credibility seems to be what grounds this whole thing. The sources say it's lived application, not just theory.
Absolutely. She's the CEO of End Recidivism Project Extreme, which is a major 501c nonprofit down in Florida.
Okay.
And her experience, it spans decades of hands-on work in community systems, everything from workforce development and reentry services all the way to youth prevention initiatives.
So she brings accountability and opportunity together. It sounds like she's showing that structure and compassion are two sides of the same coin.
That's a great way to put it. The sources insist this kind of work requires all three: credibility, compassion, and structure. And Coach J is highlighted as someone who has worked with the complex, gritty realities on the ground for years.
And that experience is vital, because this isn't just a one-off seminar. The sources describe it as a turnkey learning framework.
A turnkey learning framework, yes.
What does that mean for someone who engages with this? How is that different from, say, just a lecture?
Turnkey means the content is designed to be immediately usable and repeatable. The knowledge can be facilitated internally, right inside their own organizations. It can be adapted for their leadership teams. It can be used as a repeatable model.
So it's structured knowledge transfer.
Yeah.
Aimed specifically at building continuity.
Yeah.
At building a legacy.
Exactly.
Okay, that's critical. So let's move past the why and the who and get to the what. What are the high-impact knowledge pieces they actually receive, the things that correct this missing translation?
Well, the curriculum really focuses on organizational maturity. They tackle some crucial financial and systemic concepts.
Oh, what?
Like how opportunity compounds silently. And on the flip side, how loss also compounds silently. They cover responsible compliance.
You mean how to use other people's money in a ministry setting?
Precisely. Which ties directly back to stewardship and, of course, legal requirements.
And the practical tools matter here, too. I saw they teach how to leverage simple digital systems. Workflows.
Yeah, to reduce that crushing pressure that so often relies on just one or two key people.
Right.
And on top of that, they address what's needed to sustain leadership itself. How to structure responsibilities without losing heart.
I saw a really practical one in there. How to reduce organizational dependency on the leader without abandoning the people you serve.
A very tricky balance. But the ultimate goal is moving from reliance on one charismatic person to building a resilient institution.
You can really see that intent in the structure of the 7 sessions. It's a logical progression, isn't it? It moves from the personal burden of the leader
all the way to building institutional stability in those final sessions. It's a very purposeful journey.
Starts with the interior life, then moves to the core business of finance, with stewardship beyond the offering plate.
Right. And after that, it addresses the leader's own well-being with when the shepherd needs care, before it expands outward to make sure the whole organization can withstand pressure.
And it ends with a house established, not shaken.
A very deliberate progression.
Now, if we look at the broader context of the DWG funding, we can see that this preparedness framework, it's not just for ministry leaders, is it?
No. And this is where you see the universality of the structure.
How so?
Well, TUU is also offering separate DWG virtual business preparedness conversations with Coach Julia. And they are applying the exact same framework to small businesses.
Across different sectors.
All kinds of sectors. Retail, tech, nonprofit, service-based. The focus is on preparedness for major disruptions, whether that's a natural disaster or an economic downturn.
Which confirms that the tools are they're structurally sound, they're applicable everywhere.
Exactly.
And beyond the learning itself, there's a key amplification loop for leaders who participate.
Yes, visibility through the Kathy Hare Morning Show.
A platform that's celebrating its 10-year milestone. That's a big deal.
It's huge. It provides free, high-value community amplification. Storytelling. It gives these leaders a chance to share their impact, expand their reach.
And it all connects back to that idea of systemic growth.
Right. And it fosters collective growth because leaders who go on the show, they're asked to reference next level preparedness as the source of the conversation.
So it validates the framework, and invites other people into the learning process, a positive feedback loop.
Exactly. And critically, the sources make it clear that the entire series is designed to maximize access. It is 100% virtual.
Ordered, replayable.
Available via the Abundance Blueprint podcast and YouTube, and thanks to the DWG grant, it's offered at no cost.
So it breaks down all those historical barriers, financial barriers, geographic barriers.
Yeah.
It removes the excuses for not getting this crucial operational knowledge.
It really does.
So what does this all mean? When you boil it down, the central takeaway here is that this initiative is systematically correcting a missing translation.
Yes. It's providing leaders with the same operational tools that, other sectors receive quietly. It's turning these abstract principles into sustainable, protective, real-world practice.
And in doing so, it reframes one of the most powerful concepts used in leadership, one that often feels like just immense pressure.
That verse, "For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required."
But the source material redefined that. It's not about external pressure or punishment. It's about responsibility with understanding.
Right. It's the idea that what has been entrusted to you, your calling, your organization, your people, it deserves order. It deserves care and protection.
Protection through learned and built systems, not just through sheer personal effort.
That shift from personal stamina to institutional maturity, that is the ultimate goal here.
So, if operational structure is truly a form of protection, we want to leave you with this provocative thought for your own life or organization. What structural element in your life or organization is currently relying solely on prayer when it was actually meant to be learned and built?